Hi, this is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, and this is the program for this week's meeting, and we are excited that you are joining us. It is the opportunity that we have to share stories of innovation, entrepreneurship, and education, as well as service in all its forms, and we love sharing the stories, not just of wildly interesting people we find out there in the world, but the wildly interesting people we find within our own club. And tonight, as is being recorded, tonight we have speaking to us one of our own. Andrew Tao he's an educator, a poet, and a father, as well as an amateur cook, an astronomer, and a sometimes billiards enthusiast. Now, he's been in the education field for almost 10 years and has loved almost every moment that was fueled, as he says, by coffee. And additionally, he currently serves as the program coordinator for Upward Bound, hosted by Holy Names University in the beautiful city of Oakland, California. And we are excited to have him present to us tonight. And so, welcome, Andrew.
Hello, everyone. So let me pull up my slides real quick. Switch to this one. All right. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of what my program does, and in the end, as a little surprise, there will be a way in which this particular Rotary Club has had a direct impact on Upward Bound, actually. So first off, a little history. Upward Bound is under a piece of legislation called TRIO. TRIO was started with Lyndon B. Johnson. It was a part of the War on Poverty, and was Upward Bound Classic was actually the first of the programs, and then a couple years later, they developed more programs that would serve students of different ages and in different ways. And since then, there have been more and more programs added onto TRIO that the name TRIO doesn't really mean any, like it doesn't denote 3 programs anymore. But there were more programs that were added to serve everyone from like high school students to veterans to undergraduate students to graduate students to adults seeking to re-enter education, just a whole amazing slew of populations. And just to talk a little bit about my program. So my program is based in Holy Names University, and here you see the behind the trees there, that's Oakland. And beyond that, you can see the little strip of water between Oakland and the peninsula that San Francisco is on. And so we're based in beautiful, beautiful Oakland, which houses many, many high schools that are rich in like very different transformative pieces of history. They've gone through small school movements. They are now going through Common Core, and we serve several of these high schools in Oakland Unified. And as is somewhat known, at least in California, Oakland students tend to struggle with a lot of very complicated obstacles regarding poverty and exposure to crime and just lack of exposure to academic and career building resources. The population that we serve are primarily low income and all first generation students to go to college. And by first generation, I mean they are among the first in their family to attend college. These students tend to be to have a particularly more difficult time graduating from college because they tend not to have as many college graduate role models and advisors, as well as an environment that really fosters academic growth. And so to attempt to help them with all of that, we offer, among other things, college advising. So we serve our students for all 4 years, and we provide advising services like helping them select the right classes and apply for college and scholarships, in addition to any particular personal issues they struggle along the way. And we're also kind of a connecting point between them and referrals such as mental health or I don't know what this would be like, normal health, I guess, resources. And we also offer Saturday classes, which tend to change year to year. And the reason I have a microphone is one of our classes this year is a monologues class. It's basically a composition class that calls on them to create whatever form of monologue they want, whether it's a speech or a presentation or stand-up comedy or spoken word. Um, and the idea is both to work on their writing and to work on what is the number one fear for most people, which is public speaking. And in these classes, we also are currently doing like a Lego robotics. If any of you have ever heard of the Mindstorm sets, we're working on these really cool Lego sets that help them learn how to program robots in these really cool ways. So we also have to learn how to draw our students in, because if they don't attend our programming, the fact that our services exist might not matter so much. And one of those big things is food. And we noticed that students who attended our tutoring programs tended to be, I mean, it's after school, they tended to be really, really hungry. And so we started serving food from across the nations to bring them in so that they would have something to eat, for one, and that would be, it has been kind of a big drive for them to come to tutoring. And the reason we wanted it of various cultures was that I found that our students tend to be, they're young and everything, and they tend to be very picky. And so providing them with this food at a time in which they are really hungry is wonderful proof of the proverb, hunger is the best sauce. So this leaves them really open to other cuisines, which has been fun. I've loved watching them try out like just all kinds of new stuff. During the summer, we also provide a full-fledged, almost like a summer school. We don't offer credit for our classes. Instead, our classes are mainly enrichment. This past summer, for instance, instead of offering a typical math class, we had an algebra class that was framed completely around financial literacy. So how does compounding interest work? How do loans and loan payments work? How do certain investments kind of work? So we had all these different classes that instead of teaching them the kind of curriculum that they're normally given in school, it was very much a here are some of the things that you will find useful right after you graduate, and potentially even through college, because many of our students actually work throughout college. We also, in order to make sure that they have exposure to many different college campuses that are outside of the actually very many college campuses in the Bay Area, we go to cities all across the country every year to kind of break them out of their shell, out of the bubble of the little community that we're in. So we've gone to New York, DC, Oregon, Atlanta, all over the place, just so that they can kind of see what colleges might be like outside of California, and this provides them with a much broader breadth of what could be possible. So now to the the reason I have a dragon up here. I'm sure many of you would remember one of our members delivered a talk on 20 time. This was early in the year, And for those of you who didn't hear it, 20 Time is this program that Kevin Brookhauser had written a book about and also implemented in his class. And the idea is to provide the students with an opportunity to choose what project they want to work on, and for that project to be kind of a social entrepreneurship venture. So the students had to pretty much do everything, like all the sort of basic steps for social entrepreneurship, and to implement a project in their community to attempt to solve one of their community's problems. And I love that idea. Actually, like right after I heard the talk, I bought the book, and I like went cover to cover within really within a week. And I implemented it into our summer program this past summer in July. The reason there's a dragon here is because I rebranded it for our students. Our students feel a little more of a distance between them and they tend to feel a distance between them and how corporate narratives work. And so I felt like a fairy tale would actually be much more universal for them, for our particular population. And the story that I told them was basically that in the 1500s, cartographers would draw little sea monsters and legendary beasts in the darkest recesses of the edges of what had not been discovered. And sometimes they would write the phrase, "Here be dragons," to denote places in which could potentially be dangerous, but at least was undiscovered, which presents a very wonderful narrative of this place that is both potentially fraught with danger and also provides a wonderful opportunity to expand one's horizons or mankind's horizons. And our students know well that our dragons are vast and they are many. And with this project and the story that goes behind this project, they are sort of also come to realize the ending of the fable, the ending of the fairy tale, which is that dragons are ultimately conquered, and they are very often conquered by mere members of their community. And that is all. Thank you.
Very cool. I love the dragon theme for that as well, and I'm guessing that a lot of these students, and as they begin to jump into it and begin to think about projects where they can see where they might have something to explore and contribute and make a difference with, begin to think of themselves in quite impressive ways, and totally cool that it's off of Kevin Brookhauser's work as well. That book is amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It's super cool.
Cool. And for educators who might be watching us, if you don't know what we're talking about, Kevin Brookhauser, right, wrote a book called The 20 Time Project, and it's both the why and the how to do 20% projects with your students, giving them a chance to really pursue something amazing of their own choice and really push themselves in ways that perhaps they haven't before. So we have 3 other members of the club with us. We have our membership chair, Shag Shagrin, wave to the camera. Yay, way to go. Oh, we have our member, Catherine Liu, who is a member of our team and a person who is working on all sorts of ideas with education, so wonderful to have her as a part of it. And then Frank Trapicchio, who is our Rotary Foundation chair and a guy whose ideas just keep coming, which is pretty cool. And so I'm gonna see if any of you are ready with a comment or a question, and wave at me if you are. And let's see.
Just a comment that I'm in awe of all the stuff that goes on out there in education.
Yeah, so many different projects and programs, and you hear about something like this where the idea is to hit something where the challenges have been so great. Andrew, again, how many students are you working with, and what's the age range?
So we serve about 130 students a year, and the age range, we follow them from when we recruit them right after 8th grade, in the summer between 8th and 9th grade, up until when they graduate.
And I would assume that quite a few of the students who go through the program and get to know a college environment, with you guys, take an interest in going to Holy Names. Has that proven to be the case, where there's kind of a good kind of recruiting group that comes out of that?
Yes and no. Sometimes yes, for some of the students. Sometimes it's this sort of like it's like home, and college is an opportunity to leave home, and so they really want like a different environment. So sometimes that happens.
That makes sense, for sure. Catherine and Frank. Frank, why don't you jump in and demute? Frank, I'm going to need you to demute there, and then we'll bring you in.
My apologies. Okay, thank you. Andrew, is this an all-girls school?
No. Originally, Holy Names University was an all-girls school when it first opened, and it has since become a co-ed university. Can't tell you exactly how long ago, but it's co-ed now.
And what is the percentage of students who graduate that move on to a university or college?
So from our program, it is every year it's about 90 to 95%.
Awesome.
Now I can't say exactly the breakdown of how many of them move on to a four-year university versus a community college, but it's always one of the two.
That's great. That's an excellent percentage.
Fantastic, and to see that kind of success rate, definitely screams for others taking note to adapt whatever strengths they can to their own programs. Now, is that pretty consistent across upward bound programs across the country?
Many of them do actually work very, very well in terms of matriculation. The sort of next project, the next stage for us now, is trying to solve the issue of retention rates. Retention rates among first generation tends to be really low compared to other students. But among upward bound students, and especially the ones that actually go from upward bound to what is called student support services, which is another TRIO program, the retention rate is much better. But that is one of the things that's the code that still needs to be cracked.
Very cool. Catherine, do you have a comment or question to add to the group? She may be scrambling there. I'll give her the chance to kind of catch up with that. So when we look at kind of programs for underserved students, and so often these are exactly the kind of statistics that people want to know about. Is a program helping a given population stay in school, finish school on time at rates notably higher than the averages, and it's exciting to see the kind of success that you guys have got. Would you say that there is something in particular? I mean, in a sense, this was your presentation. But is there something particular about your program that you feel is especially important in how the success happens in terms of getting students to go on to university from their high school experience?
I think something that, at least as I was looking into the program before I entered it, something that really struck me was how holistic it was. You had college advising, you had tutoring services, you had enrichment classes, you traveled with them. There were all these different resources in sort of like a one-stop shop for them. And there are some amazing programs out there that are really good and these really niche things like within service or within college preparation or things like that. But I think that we've been successful because we work on supporting them in all these different ways.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Catherine, do you have something to add in? Actually, we may have.
Yes, question. Do you have either a selection process for your kids?
Yes. So we, for one, they have to be low income and first generation. About the majority of them are low income. It's roughly, I think at this point it's roughly about 70%, but 100% of them are first generation to go to college. So that's actually the main selection process. Outside of that, there have been instances in which we have students that sometimes are not particularly serious, and we do coach them through on the selection process because we found that some students aren't ready and aren't ready to like think about college, but still have a lot of potential for college. And that selection process also involves us like contacting their parents, which sometimes results in students coming to us because their parents will, and not so much their own, and which is great too, because oftentimes they don't necessarily thank their parents right away, but eventually they do.
Very cool. I think Frank, you got an idea as well. And Frank, I muted your microphone a minute ago, so.
My question actually has been asked by Catherine. Thank you, Catherine.
Oh.
So something about great minds thinking alike.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, now one of the things about joining our eClub is that, now, do I remember correctly from a conversation we had months and months and months ago that you had been in Rotary before? How did you learn about the eClub?
So I don't know if this would necessarily be a surprise, but Mitty actually brought me here. So Mitty started the Davis Rotary Club.
Yes.
And toward the end of its first year, I went to an event with them, and he was sitting in the back seat with me, and he was talking about the club and about like what it does and everything. And from there, it was history.
Cool. And were there particular reasons that you thought, rather than joining a traditional Rotary club, you'd be interested in an online club?
A lot of it had to do with the fact that I tend to have really erratic hours. Sometimes I'll need to go to the school super early. I also run our tutoring programs, so sometimes if they're late. And because of that unpredictability, the scheduling, the asynchronous meeting was just perfect.
Very nice. Now, anybody from the team have a comment or question before I leap in with my next one? Because I don't want to. Okay, so with that, I would say that one of the things that I love about your bio is that it mentions something that I have enjoyed telling other people about you for some time, which is you're the only member of our club who in the discussion section at the bottom has ever left a comment in verse. That's so cool. Right? And if you don't mind doing so, I'd love for you to tell a little bit about your poetry. What motivates you there? What kinds of things do you write about?
Sure. In terms of poetry, it's kind of my access point for sort of everything else in the world. So I love astronomy. I love actually pretty much every area of science. Definitely from the sort of amateur point of view, I don't have the discipline and the aptitude to really like delve into the mathematics or any of that. But I love the stories that science can tell, and that shows up a lot in poetry. But mostly, I like the kind of language that we use in life to try and communicate things in science and really like all kinds of fields, different jargons. They're really ripe with new connections and things like that. So for me, poetry is kind of one interesting thing about constellations is that, for instance, the Big Dipper actually, depending on what culture you're asking, the Big Dipper is actually different pictures, like a ton of different ones. In I think in one culture it's a chariot, and so to me, I feel like poetry is actually this is kind of a made-up word, but constellography. So the act of drawing constellations upon a seemingly random pattern.
Well, as the preeminent constellographer that I know, I think that's really cool that you share that idea. I mean, one of the things about, when you look at, scientific learning, and you talked about, the jargon, right? So there are all these terms you learn. You get into a field. It's something that really fascinates you, and necessarily you're learning the language of that field. As you begin to learn language, you begin to understand that the kinds of nuances that are a part of words, how that they can evoke certain kinds of images and ideas and feelings, vary from setting to setting to setting, person to person, mood to mood, right? And if there's something for me that is especially powerful about poetry, it's that it moves from being descriptive to being evocative. That chance to having someone, in a sense, experience something as a result of sharing it in a way that is designed to go beyond the merely descriptive. Does that kind of work for you?
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I have a lot of friends who aren't involved in poetry, and when they ask me like, "Oh, how does that work?" or like, "What makes a poem?" What I usually respond with is, if you imagine a land like of infinite span, and each grain of sand in that land is a word. You can take those words and attempt to sculpt objects, and those objects would be what you describe. But there are things in our experience that cannot be described, that cannot be accessed by language, and for those we dig holes. We dig holes in these sort of shapes where language can't access. None of those grains of sand can suspend the hole. And that, to me, would be what a poem is. It's an attempt to speak the unspeakable.
That actually speaks to what I might call my very favorite word, which is the word ineffable, which I learned back in the day in college. I think that which cannot be described in words, right?
Definitely.
Talk about religious ineffable experiences, or whatever. Yeah. And hopefully you're having an ineffably cool experience, catching all of the wonderful thoughts being shared in this program. And so, Andrew, I am going to kind of wind things down as we've kind of hit our time. But then I will pass it back to you to share any last thoughts that you might want to share with our members and guests. And so everyone who has joined us and taken part in this meeting and joined in for the program to see what's going on. First of all, thanks for the participants who've actively done so, Shags and Frank and Catherine. Always good to see you guys. And then also, if you have taken this in, let us know. There is the I attended survey just to the south of this particular window in the WordPress posting that is our meeting. And by letting us know, that gives us the chance to send out a thank you. We won't spam you or anything like that. Just let us know you're here. And if you're a Rotarian joining us, what will be generated by that, by filling that out, if you do so as not identifying yourself as a member of our club, right, is that it will give you an email that you can share with your secretary, so that if you are making up a missed meeting at your own club, that'll be your proof for doing so. Finally, for everybody at the bottom, we have our discussion section. Leave a comment. Leave a comment about the ideas you heard shared in the program, about elements of the meeting that came forward, and let everyone else know, because that kind of sharing is one of the special things about our club, where people stop and they really take time to tell about the thinking that's a part for them of experiencing what people have to say, the different videos and ideas that get shared, things like that. So we hope you will do that. And in finishing up, let's turn it back to Andrew. And Andrew, give us some words to pass along to everybody.
I hope everyone has a nice evening and a great week of whenever this meeting will be broadcast. And happy service.
Absolutely. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope that you will come back and join us each week for the kinds of ideas that we share on innovation, entrepreneurship, and education with service at SiliconValleyRotary.com. Go out there and make a difference in the world, and we will see you again soon.